Paul, are you ready? Thanks, Paul. I'm going to call to order the Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 meeting of the Middleton Affordable Housing Trust. As a reminder to those both in the room that this meeting is being recorded, and just please be aware. So first on the agenda is review and approval of minutes on October 2nd. So I know, Jackie, thank you for providing us hard copies of this as well. I believe, Herman, remind me, you have reviewed these?
To be honest, no, I haven't.
Okay. So I'm not sure if folks have had an opportunity to review these. If folks are comfortable with any comments or making a motion, I would, if folks would like to.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from October 2nd.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed, if any?
Can I just ask a question, though? When
Yeah.
Herman said he didn't have a chance to review them, did Catherine get them? Just want to make sure that it's going to Herman, because he's reviewing them from Catherine.
So you did see
That's why I
them,
just
and
wanted
you
to-
I did
approved
see
them.
them.
I just want to make
So
sure you're
I
getting
did send an
them.
email back
Yeah.
to saying, that I didn't see any meaningful changes.
Oh, okay.
And I missed, a certain portion of the meeting, so I couldn't validate those.
Okay.
But I did send something back, but in terms of saying I approve everything, my answer was no, because.
I just wanted to make sure you got it, because I used to do
Yes.
it before you, just to make sure the chain of communication that you were getting it. That's all. That's good.
So the first meeting I didn't get the minutes, but the second one I did get.
Excellent. Okay, just
Got
want
it.
to make sure.
Correct.
Okay, and these will be, now that they're approved, will be posted on the town's website and linkable on the Affordable Housing Trust website as well. Want to continue to work forward on continuation of the working session of the 5-year action plan that we had discussed. Before then, I would ask if our treasurer has an update on the report that you have in front of us.
Yes, I did post, basically the only change was posted in October's actual. Sarah, every month will send me the previous month's closed numbers, so that's been posted. No other changes have been made since the last chat.
Okay.
And I'll continue to present this monthly, which is showing the actuals update until we have other decisions to make.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for that. Any questions on the budget? Okay. Excuse me. Okay, back to the working session, the 5-year action plan. Several items that we had started discussing at our last meeting, I just want to touch base. First off, to Beth, I apologize, on my list was to reach out to you to begin the work that we're going to be doing specifically around some documents, one-pagers, multiple summaries. I have been buried, but I will circle back with you, actually, before we leave this evening. Let's compare schedules.
Great, yeah.
And set up a time we can jump on a Zoom call or meet, whatever works with you, to begin to work at that. I would really like to see if we can get something for our next meeting that we can start sharing with the membership, that we can start to utilize in our outreach and communication efforts, and then also, as Herman and the work that he's starting to do around our website, can incorporate some of those materials on our website, but also as we begin to do some of our outreach and education across the community and meeting with different groups, organizations, Board of Trade, Council on Aging, veterans groups, larger homeowners associations that have been engaged in some of the communication that we've been doing on other items across the town. We can actually have some materials to bring with us. I use the example, I think it was my mother I was telling the other day about the Affordable Housing Trust, and she's like, well, what is that? And I think I struggled a little bit to come up with the elevator pitch of what the Affordable Trust is. So I think that would be a really good start for us, so.
Do we have a mission statement of some sort?
I think that's a really good point, is about a
Is it in
mission
our
statement.
bylaws, maybe? Is it
So,
in the bylaws?
I don't, do we have a
I'm
mission
trying to remember.
statement?
I don't
You would have
have
had to have
It
one.
would be in, isn't it?
Is it in the
it's
bylaw?
I think it's in the Declaration of Trust,
Yeah, it's
right?
in the
Is it
The
Declaration
beginning
of
of it is
Trust?
the
Yeah,
mission,
it's-
right? Isn't that the
I'm
first
trying to,
paragraph?
I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember.
but is it a clear,
Just a
so,
paragraph.
there's probably a legal declaration of what our mission is, but do we have a clear declaration, I mean, town meeting has given us a charge. We are, after we've engaged with the consultants, we've come up with an action plan. We're working on what our, how our charge is going to both identify and then implement that action plan. But I actually think that's a really good point, that
I
we
just don't know if
should.
it's in, maybe Jackie's looking it up for us, Brian. Maybe it is in that declaration.
I thought it was.
I thought it wasn't.
I mean, I
think
haven't
we
read
had
it
this
since, I
conversation.
didn't like
I have
6
it in the
months, but.
strategic
Yeah,
plan.
I think we talked.
The what?
I have it in the strategic plan.
Oh, it is?
Oh, okay.
And what does it say? Is it like a paragraph, Jackie? If you could just refresh.
Yep, hang on. Sorry, I'm just getting it to load. Apologies.
No problem. I mean, we should remember it, I guess.
So, would you like me to read it, or?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you could.
The purpose of the Middleton Affordable Housing Trust is to provide for the creation and preservation of affordable housing for the benefit of low and moderate income households and for the funding of community housing. This purpose is in line with other affordable housing trusts in the region, and the scope is wide enough to encompass a diverse array of activities to focus on building the trust activities within the realm of affordable housing.
Is
Well,
that
it's
in the
not great.
Declaration, where is that in the declaration?
In the
of
purpose
trust?
of the Affordable Housing Trust.
So I wonder if maybe that'd be part of like your
Well, I think.
stuff that you're talking about.
I think as we, my thought is, as we continue to dig through the 5-year action plan, and we start to align with certain milestones, I mean, I think some of us are, you've heard me talk about it around home modification support for individuals to allow them to stay in their home through some small grant programs and/or loan forgiveness programs. That may be a piece of it. I think at some point, the mission is going to probably get condensed down a little bit as we zero in on those items in the 5-year action plan. Like, as much as I fully appreciate the support we've received from Community Preservation Committee, you know, the reality is today, we don't have enough funds, although we have a generous amount we've received from town meeting and the CPC, we do not have enough funds to actually make meaningful movement towards some type of housing stock efforts. But there are other things that we need to make some movement to in that short and medium term. So I think our, to your point, Maria, I think our mission is probably, can be refined a little bit as we identify those.
And maybe like your promotional stuff would have it at the, if you, when you mentioned your mother talking with her, maybe in your promotional stuff, that'd be part of it, or the newsletter somewhere. Like
Yeah,
at the top
okay.
or at the bottom, something.
Well, I think we've also seen ways that this amount of money can be like a Kickstarter, seed funds into, look, it's like some of the property things, like we've got opportunities.
Thank you.
Secondly, when Mr. Hurley came in and talked to us about the home funding and had provided some confirmation around some of the usual vendors, i.e. Contractors and builders that have gone to their organization for grant. So I've reached back to him. I did not bring it with me, but I have a cadre list of some of the usual suspects that are, well, maybe suspects not the best term, usual organizations that have been applying for grants through the home funding in that organization and through the North Shore Home Consortium. So I have put together that list, and I was going to make a round of phone calls just to see what, if any, of these organizations have worked with other affordable housing trusts, what are their level of interests, and what is it that they're looking at in their more longer-term horizon. I get it, most of those are focused in the Peabody's, the Salems, the Gloucesters in the world, but are any of them have any interest in other communities and potential smaller projects?
I think you tested me with Habitat, right? So I
Yes.
did a little ping pong back and forth, but we weren't able to connect, so I'll make sure I get that before.
So,
next
and
meeting.
on the Habitat piece, Bill, I'd really like to see us explore if Habitat would have an ability to potentially support the housing trust around the development of a grant and/or loan forgiveness program for home modifications to allow an individual to stay at home and allow an individual
Yeah.
to stay in the community. So,
Didn't we talk with her, didn't we ask her that, Brian? And I thought she
Wait,
said they
what-
don't allow, like, stay in place.
I wasn't here for the meeting when they came in and presented.
There was the woman who came
Anthony.
in and spoke to us, remember?
I don't-
She
was
came
it a gentleman?
early on,
yeah.
and didn't she, I thought she said that they don't fund, like, stay-in-place stuff?
They don't fund, but I think they have managed using a braided funding mechanism from other groups,
Maybe, but
including
maybe
like,
Bill will find
So,
that out.
well,
I thought she presented one case where they were doing renovations to
Yeah, they did.
access to the
yeah,
property.
they'll do access stuff, they'll do smaller things. So I've met with Habitat, a different regional Habitat,
Mm-hmm.
that the Lowell group is what makes it to Wakefield. So I've met with them a couple of times on a project we're working on. So I'm assuming they have the same programs. But essentially what they do is they're able to get no-interest loans and different things that they're able to kind of shuffle down to folks and do that type of thing. They'll have different programs for like more getting into the home, smaller renovation things. It could be like a heating, a heating upgrade, like small contained things,
Handicap
not.
accessibilities and.
That, for sure, they definitely do that stuff. It's more like smaller, improvements that are contained. So, like, it's not, I'm gonna renovate your whole first floor. It would be more like, okay, you need a new water tank and boiler.
these are
We
grab
can-
bars, this is a ramp, this
You got it.
is.
You got it.
Those
Those types of
smaller
things.
modifications, it's gonna allow somebody to stay at home, be safe at home, and remain in their community. Secondly, and I think this board was aligned on the concept of understanding, at least under the North Shore Home Consortium model, what they do with some of their other programs, which is, it's a loan that sits as a lien, but at some point is forgiven
Right.
if, and if not, if that's a home that's sold in the next year or two, then the lien would be paid back, and those dollars would come back to the trust and be utilized for others. So I think we just, and if it's not going to be somebody like a Habitat that can at least give us guidance, or maybe potentially help us support the kickoff of this, at least maybe they can give us some guidance of some of the models that they've seen that we can replicate, because at some point in the not-too-distant future, I would like us, this board, to get to a discussion of, do we want to dedicate a certain portion of this, not a big portion, but a small portion, to actually test the opportunity of this program being effective in, if we build it, will they come, so to speak. And then, as we're out communicating, promoting it on our website, communicating with groups, Council on Aging and others, I don't want to go to a group and say, this is what we're thinking of doing, have people come in and want to participate in a program that we don't have ready.
Okay, so I already spoke to Council on Aging, because I sit on the board there.
Yeah.
And in the board meeting, I brought that up, and we're calling it the Aging in Place Assistance. So that's the name of the program. They've agreed to move forward with it. I've also spoken to the Veterans Officer, and he is also in line. They already have identified people that can benefit from it. I said, we don't know anything in terms of numbers, and how much it's going to cost, and how we're going to administer it, and who are the people, who are the contractors who are going to be doing the work. So we have the framework in place. The pieces that we're missing, and I think I didn't get a chance to speak with Bill, but in hearing him just speak, maybe we can plug in Habitat for Humanity, and if they can start with a small amount, reaching out to those individuals and seeing if they want to have something done, and actually getting those done and getting feedback.
And this is where, if this is a program that the Council on Aging and the Veteran Service Officer is obviously showing that there's the likelihood of some need, we need to put some parameters around this, is what is the qualification for this? What is the,
Eligibility.
what is the trigger? What is, let's say we have X dollars available and one project eats up 95% of it. Maybe that's not going to be the most effective kickoff of a program. But secondly, also, are there, as we're educating around this, I think it may be an opportunity, unless I misunderstood when Mr. Hurley came in from North Shore Home Consortium, is there is a potential that we could, as the Affordable Housing Trust, make a request to the North Shore Home Consortium for some additional dollars to supplement what we're trying to leverage here through this program. And I think what he did clearly state is, we've been a member since the beginning, but we've never been a town that has made an ask. in that. Now, I don't know where we'd be in the competitive scheme of that, but you never know unless you ask.
Well, and I think the advantage of finding something like Habitat for Humanity is they'll have experience with those, the administration, the criteria.
The vendors that do this.
Yep, all of that, and I would
Yeah.
think it'll be a lot more easier to implement and more confident that it will.
Well, and then you know when they have the vendors that do this, that the dollars are being provided and the work is actually being done and being done correctly
Yeah,
to code
yeah,
and the rest.
yeah. They vet all their folks out, so it's usually they have like contractors on, like, kind of on retainer essentially for them, so.
So, and I don't have the first clue yet of, like, what should we be talking about for a portion of the dollars that are here, if at all, that we want to dedicate towards this.
Well, why don't we?
It'd be interesting to understand, you know, as the COA and the veteran service officers are identifying individuals in the community that, whether it's shut-ins that they're supporting or others that they think are at risk of something happening or occurring that was going to not allow them to stay at home anymore or stay in their community. I just don't know what that potential aperture looks like. So
I
it's,
think we kind of need to know the numbers, though, from these other programs, right? So I think we want to start there as the first piece, and then we can kind of decide what we want to do with our funds and.
so
how that-
I can look from my day job. Medicaid health plans do a lot of this today, specifically in dually eligible plans, where they will actually, for individuals receiving both Medicare and Medicaid, they will provide at times dollars to support grab rails, ramps, bars going down a hallway, things that will help with safety, maneuverability, and remaining in the community. Let me talk with some of the folks that I work with in some of our health plans and understand what is their, you know, when they look at a home that's coming in, they're doing, you know, grab bars and a ramp, what's the usual allocated budget that they do? And many of these health plans use companies, many times they're companies that are contracted with area agencies on aging, but in the case of Massachusetts, they're called aging service access points that already have built-in vendors.
Yep.
That perform these services on behalf of either the area agency or an aging, or on behalf of the area agency on aging for health plans. So I should be able to get some actual back of the envelope numbers of, you know, what that looks like in terms of a normal allocation, or, and what I expect it's probably going to be is this is the maximum amount that they would provide in support to do A, B, and C.
And I'd like to point out, if you take a look at the backside of my chart with a 5-year model, I have thrown in what he had recommended that North Shore typically does for a consortium, was $20,000 a year. I also have a line in here for potential contributions from Middleton on an annual basis from free cash. So you can take a look at the, you know, a revenue projection and see what would feel comfortable of that you're willing to spend in this type of a program. You know, there is sizable monies, particularly because of the CPA that's coming in. There is monies available down the road.
Costa?
The largest and only ongoing commitment of the CPA fund, you know, is the supporting the library debt service. That is FY '28, I believe, is the last year of that. So if, you know, starting in FY '29, a lot more should be available. So if you develop a plan that requires, say, $200,000 a year for 5 years, starting in FY '29, if it's presented to town meeting and approved at town meeting, then you can be, then that 200,000 contribution
Built into a,
is built
Budget
into
line.
the, sort of, the ongoing project warrant article, which is,
similar to what we did with the bond for the library, similar to what was done for the funding for the purchase of the property where the municipal complex is.
so, you know, keep that in mind, but, you know, to be sure that that those funds are committed, the plan has to be approved, presented and approved at town meeting with the funding
Yep,
source being
exactly.
CPA.
And in listening to Mr. Hurley from the Home Consortium, I think I appreciated the model that they take on some of theirs where it's a loan, but after a certain
Time is
period of
forgiven.
time, it's a loan forgiveness. It's a no-interest loan, so at least for some cases, that principal is coming back into the program. But I think as we relate to this, and what did you call it, Herman?
Aging in place assistance.
Thank you, aging in place assistance. I think we should make the assumption that we're going into this with all of those grants will be forgiven at some point in time, however this board decides that point in time to look like. Whether that's
Makes
a
sense.
5-year, 7-year, 3-year, whatever the case is. So it's not going to be a revolving fund that you'd see with the old CDBG funds that came into some of the bigger cities and towns where they were providing no interest or low interest loans that after a certain number of years began to be paid back, or when that property was sold, the lump sum came back. They were all paid back. I don't think that's going to be a logical tool for this.
What would be the disadvantage of, we talked before about doing the when the home is sold model?
Yeah, I think, well, I think that's, I'm not opposed to that. I think the disadvantage would be trying to build into a budget model that we expect X percentage that goes out the door to come back in within certain, like, I mean, I'm hoping folks, this is allowing them to stay in their homes, and they stay in their homes for many, many years. And, you know, and I'm hoping that homes are then transferred to family members, but if not, these homes will be sold. But if somebody is utilizing this and it's actually kept them in their home, and after a certain amount of time, this is not big dollars, it's not gonna have a huge effect on the value of that property when it's sold. I just don't want us to rely on a budget purpose of, we know we're putting out this much and X amount and Y amount's gonna come back annually.
And I think for low-value items like grab bars, there's no need when the house is sold for it to be paid back. But if it's a boiler and it's $8,000, then maybe that's something that could be considered. So maybe there's a cap that we say below this amount, we're just not even going to worry about.
Yeah. Well, it could be a grant that, you know, if the work is done and 6 months later the home's sold, I
Correct.
think that's a different argument.
Yes.
If the work is done and it's grab bars and a ramp or small modifications to make the home safe and/or compliant with life and safety, that's one thing. To your point, heating, and we may want to have a conversation of, are those the investments that, you know, a heating system, a refrigerator, a bigger cost item, is that what we want to be in this program? And that's where hopefully
Habitat will be-
give us some guidance on.
Yeah, when I talked to the other group, the other Habitat group, they definitely have programs like that. We were talking a little bit about it, but obviously I wasn't in the Essex group, unfortunately, because they didn't overlap, which I thought they would, so I'd kill two birds with one stone. We
Wakefield's in
don't,
the Merrimack Valley group?
we're in the, I guess we're in the, no, we're in, yeah, the Merrimack Valley, because they're out of Lowell. That's who I was meeting with, so, you know, it's strange.
And the other thing that occurs to me is that if it's just things like grab bars, we don't have a tool library in this town. And so, you know, for example, Medford has a tool library that has all the tools you will need to do basic home repairs, installs, grab bars, levels, bunch of stuff like that.
So you just kind of hold on
And
to
it's
the.
probably, you know, the administration numbers for something open once a week is probably within these sort of numbers.
Yeah, that's actually,
That's a
that's an
cool-
interesting concept, because what I would not want to see this committee being in the business of is us actually, unless you guys think differently, of us actually being involved in installation. It would be
Oh, yeah,
either
no,
us.
no, no, no,
You do it,
no.
no.
Either,
I
no,
wouldn't
what
even
what
want
I
us
mean,
to run a-
no,
one
what I
of
mean
these
by being
things,
involved in
like-
the installation is us acquiring the company that is going to do the work. I would rather have a structure that's already in place, like
Not
the
a
aging
GC.
aging services access points, the AAAs, that this is part of the work they do today. Centers for Independent Living, independent living centers, the one in the North Shore and the one in, which is up in the Haverhill Lowell area than the one in Gloucester. They both kind of overlap here. They have programs and approved vendors that do that work.
I mean, I'm a little bit concerned if we're focusing on populations that already have lots, like, if we're focusing only on aging in place, and there's already lots of programs in that, and we already have a council on aging program, that we're not addressing the full range of needs that we've identified.
Well, and you're correct. I mean, this is going to be more than the Council on Aging, more than Veteran Services. There's, this town has many different programs directly funded through town meeting, but also through bequeaths and other dollars that have been provided to the town that help individuals during certain times of the year, that those individuals are identified through different modes and means of determining how they may be eligible for this. So I think we have to also look, the Council on Aging, Veteran Service are two perfect examples of finding the maybe easier to find, because those two groups already have town organizations that are already engaging with that population. But I will tell you, the schools, the library, the housing authority, there may be folks that are in a family home, a housing authority family home, that I don't know if the housing authority would provide grab bars or items like that.
We've done that for certain people that are up at the family unit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a whole winch and things like that, and the bathroom lifting. They've accommodated and modified units at the housing authority for people. But I was wondering, Herman, since it seems like you have knowledge in that, do the Veteran Services provide things like, when you say grab bars, do they do things like that already for their
So they have programs, it's just the speed of the programs can be very slow.
speed,
so-
meaning it's not funded enough? Is that
No,
why?
so when the
Funding?
application goes in,
Yeah.
it could be several months before they get what they need. So the fact is, people have to wait maybe 3, 6, 9 months.
Is that
Is
due
it
to
through
funding?
VA? Is it through the VA or? okay.
Yes, so
Oh.
I actually spoke to the veterans officer on this.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, there are programs, but they can be very slow to deliver the funds, and then to get somebody to do the work and so on, takes a lot of time. I think what we can do is, and we're not just doing veterans and seniors, that's where we're starting, because that's where I think we can make some good impact. Once we have something flowing from there, then we say, okay, how else can we help other groups?
That's how I see it
I
too. That's where
don't
you
know that-
start, you know?
I mean, this is still going to be a government program. We're still going to be going through the application process. I don't know that we're going to be able to solve the problem of 3-month delays.
Yeah, we may be moving at the speed of government as well.
Right.
And I don't want to supplant a funding source, but if there's an individual that has an immediate need and we can fill something sooner than later, I think that's a conversation. But, I mean, I think to your point, Beth, is outside of those two population cohorts already, I think part of the communication, once we roll out what this program is going to look like, is we then want to be able to promote this both on our website, in the engagement that we do as an organization, but also individually, with outreach around the community of, there's going to be folks that are going to hear about this, that aren't going to a council on aging meeting, aren't a veteran,
Yep.
maybe don't have kids in the schools, maybe on a regular attendee at the library or any other, but they're going to hear some way, or you'll hear about somebody, or he'll hear about somebody and they said, you should talk to Herman, Herman knows something. So I just want to make sure that we open the aperture up
Correct.
for this, but also, that's probably why we have to really better understand what's also available, but better understand how to develop a process for approval
Yes.
for this. Because actually, what you just mentioned in the Veteran Service Officer is, if somebody comes in and says, this is the need I have, but then we find out there is a veteran, are there other sources of funding that can help do things that this dollars may be able to supplement to do more? Or maybe the VA is moving in a more timely manner than we may be able to, and the VA will be able to take care of that, but we're going to be able to check in through this program to make sure it's been done. If not, we're here to help.
Sure.
Can we maybe like think about cobbling together all the different programs so we can kind of have an idea of what the ranges of those programs and
That's what I
costs
was
are?
kind of
Were you gonna go, you were gonna go there?
Yeah, and I was trying to, that's what kind of was getting to before, to figure out, because I'm not familiar.
Be a clearinghouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
And I
basic-
bet you,
Well, but I'm
I
just-
bet you Habitat for Humanity also has
The same
some
idea.
line of sight. I mean, I
That's what I
use
was
the example of
assuming.
Medicare and Medicaid braided funded through a dual eligible program. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that health plans are required to do, is provide access tools. And now, some of these members may not be Medicaid eligible. They may be Medicare eligible, or they may not be either. They're just at a need that they can't afford.
Or a need that they're not able to work to get themselves in, to things taken care of, because they're understanding, and you're in place there to help them, guide them through it. I'm assuming the application process for certain things, I'm assuming you help them with that they're not able to get on the computer and fill these things out.
Correct.
If they're not, I'm assuming that's kind of things you do too there at the Council
Well,
on Aging.
Jillian is more up to date with how they help others, but when I mentioned the program, they said they'll be very keen to participate in it.
Yeah,
Because I don't think they have access to all the funds that they might need. And there's a particular case for a veteran, he needs grab bars now, but his application isn't going to go through and he's not going to get the funds for a couple of months. So we do have to ascertain the need and timing versus, if somebody is handicapped.
Well, who says we can't front it and get reimbursed? That's why I'd just be
That's
curious to
right.
see kind of what the process is and
Sure.
how much money these programs have, kind of maybe cobble together all the different programs.
Absolutely,
See what's
yeah.
available, and then see if there's a niche that might be better for our dollars, or, like you said, supplement, or, kind of front, or whatever it may be.
The thing is, any program that this board sets up is a government program. It sounds like that need would be better served by like private charity churches, something like a community group that doesn't need to do that kind of administration. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's a
No,
good
that's
idea.
okay. All I was gonna say was, I think I'm hearing really good things, and I know Jillian would be keen to do that, as would our VSO Nathan Stedman. I think, to the point of the clearinghouse, can I take this concept that you're fleshing out and bring it back to the staff with COA, including their outreach person who's a Shine counselor,
Yep.
our VSO, our assessor's office, which has access to a number of resources and programs,
Yep.
and come back to you at your we'll send you a memo ahead of the next meeting.
Well, that'd be great.
And if it's
That'd be
okay with
perfect.
this board,
Yeah.
we have the regimen that we looked at with Plymouth when one of our guests came in from Habitat originally. So if it's okay with this group, I could take Plymouth, start to make it Middletonized,
Yep,
get input from that combination of, on the staff side,
yep.
and send it back to you for your next meeting.
I think we'd have a much better conversation, because we're talking all generalities here. and,
Absolutely,
So that would
yeah.
definitely get us kind of moving down a path, and
Because
Sounds like
Herman's bringing
Herman
up good
opened an
points.
important
Yeah.
door that
Yes.
those two departments are interested and willing, and
Collaborate, yeah.
I think then, we have a department head meeting in the morning, so like, I can pull all the people and be like, let's get together and
here's what we're doing.
flesh out what they have for expertise, and then come back to you with something with some shape to it, if that's amenable.
Yeah, we're one town, and to help, to come together as one town to do these things instead of
I
us
don't want to
each.
reinvent the wheel. if
Right.
there-
Of course,
Exactly.
that's kind of where I'm
That's
sitting
what-
too, yeah.
exactly what we're saying.
As a way to identify non-senior, non-veterans, people that may have a need, assessor's office, single-family homes under a certain value. Cross-reference the ownership from the census database to see which of those homes are owned by non-seniors, because the seniors are already.
Getting services.
And then maybe because, if somebody who is not a senior, not a veteran, owns a $350,000 assessed value, single-family home, if that home is sold, depending on the size of their piece of land, that could end up $2 million homes. And if we want to keep affordable housing stock, keeping that $350,000 home as a $350,000 home.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, that doesn't make homes more, like, replacing that with some building with 8 apartments, each one of which was $250,000 would improve as, but like just keeping housing from being built simply drives up rent. Like that simply makes homes less affordable if we keep housing from being built.
I would,
But then you push
I
that
wouldn't
person
disagree
out.
with that concept, what you said, Beth, but I think what this town is collapsing under the weight of, everything that's being built in this town for the last 15 years are homes that have driven beyond just the appreciation of value of homes overall, the size of the homes that are being built, the value of the homes that are being built.
The fact it's all single family.
And we're gonna open up a whole nother can of worms here, but the other reality is the thing that we struggle with, it's not that we're the town that, we're not the only town that people want a big home at. The reason why people are building big homes is because the value of that land is so high.
Yes.
That, and we're struggling with this in the conversation around Locust Street, of if we make that attractive for a smaller home, it means the
Locust
value
Street?
of that land
I'm
is.
sorry, Locust
Locust
the
Street.
Weber land.
Yes.
The Weber land, I'm sorry.
That makes the land less valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can artificially do that if we want, but there's got to be some building mechanism there that somebody's not going to build a small home on a big lot and then later on turn it into a huge home, that they were able to buy it through our process at a reduced cost. There has to be some process that's going to keep that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm doing one right now, as a matter of fact. So we're looking like at a cottage-style development. It's a small little thing. We have maybe 4 acres, 3 acres of land, and we're gonna put in this type of development. There's a couple of them that were done in Concord back when I worked
It's like
there.
a village.
Almost like a little village plan. You have sort of like a parking lot in the spot, and the houses are fairly small. They're essentially like a 1-bedroom,
Similar to what
2-bedroom.
Boxford did back in the day, although.
Same idea,
Kind
but
of
a
screwed up
little
on their
bit-
water, but.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you know, in general, we would try not to do that, so.
But it's a pretty nice, that's really
Yeah.
nice up there.
That's
very
what I'm
nice.
saying, so like those types of ideas, and there's like, I mean, they were still selling for decent money, but, I mean, they weren't short money by any stretch, but, like, I don't think that $350,000 home, I think that shit might have
I think that might be
sailed
a
away, my
unicorn.
man, so.
Well, no.
I don't know if that exists anymore.
There are.
There's one that's been for sale for a while in town now, but I think there's some zoning issues around it, but yeah.
But, you know, 3 or even 400. You know, ask, you know, Brad to run a report. How many single-family homes there are in town assessed at under 400,000? You'd be surprised at the number, I believe.
Wow.
I think
It would
we're
shock
gonna
me.
have that conversation on the staff side too. The assessor's one of the people that we're gonna talk about. They have more than just their exemption programs. They have people that come in off the street. Like, to Costa's point, there's plenty of reports we can run to like get that data. So I think we can pull some of that. We can't give it to you in the sense that you are a public body and then it's a public record. There's certain aspects that are public records.
That needs to be blinded. Yeah.
Some of those reports have to be redacted before they can come to you. So let me ask the assessors to pick through all of the things that they currently run and some creative things that they don't. Because they also just have people come in off the street with problems and questions and like a problem like the one Costa's characterizing. Let me get some of that data and get it redacted, and that way you can rather than continuing to talk in the generalities, you can really
with you.
have a bite at the apple.
I like it.
But
I
that
things
clearinghouse
like village
is great.
zoning are great for that, like being able to get housing onto land that wouldn't otherwise have housing. I'm just concerned about using our resources in ways that may help one house but cause the overall problem to become worse, which
Yeah,
it's very easy to.
I can unsee that, but I want to see the Affordable Housing Trust get some small early wins here. It's going to make for a better argument when we go to town meeting to ask for some dedicated funding streams. It's also going to give us some growing credibility in the community that this is exactly what the Affordable Housing Trust was. It's not a committee that's focused on 40B. It's not a committee that's focused on bringing in a big developer to do this big development. It has a multi-pronged approach. Secondly, I mean, I think that really was the concept of the 5-year plan, but
That's how we started, the whole
and
thing.
and
Yeah.
realizing that there's going to be a lot of things that we go 2 steps forward
Right.
and go 1 step back in terms of overall housing stock. I mean, part of the charge that is in the mission that Jackie read to us is both expanding but preserving the existing stock. And part of the preservation of that existing stock are those properties that are already designated as affordable, but also those that, you ready for this, Jackie? The lowercase a affordable as well.
I should have copyrighted it before I said a word to you.
But also those that, to Costa's point, that are at the 350,000, that is affordable, that it's what's keeping that individual in this town. Because I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that as that $350,000 home becomes a $500,000 home, that's an exponential increase in their property tax. That is what is going to trigger that home to either be sold or that individual having to leave the community. And as we saw a year or two ago when reassessments hit us in the perfect storm, there was a collective gasp you heard as everybody opened their mailbox during that week-long period as property values were now reflective of what had happened in the marketplace due to sales.
Especially if our tax base isn't otherwise expanding. I worry a little bit that, like, as someone who has bought a house in the last 10 years, that my experience is very different than people who have owned their home for 20 years. Because for me, we moved here because it was affordable at $800,000, and that wasn't something you could find other places. Like, that's the number that is unreachable in a lot of communities, just to find something that, like, available with the space we needed for that price. And that's genuinely wild, right? It's not a reasonable number. So,
It is now, unfortunately. Now it is reasonable.
Anybody be looking
so
for
to
800,000, right?
So to speak.
Okay, so I think we've,
The other one, Brian,
Yeah.
it was this Harbor Light Homes too, that was when you.
yeah,
reaching
Harbor
out
Light,
to-
so,
What happened with that?
so Harbor Light is actually, and if I remember when Kevin Hurley, I had a friend of mine actually, whose wife at one point was on their board. I don't think she's on the board any longer. Harbor Light is doing more of, mostly in the Beverly area.
Yes.
But more specifically, they're doing built-out projects that have a whole wraparound services that support the individual within that community complex that's being built. So it's homelessness, it's food insecurity, it's job training, it's education, and so forth. They've
The one by
morphed.
the Anchor Restaurant, wasn't it that the one you talked about by the Anchor? The new one by the bridge where the Anchor Restaurant is in Beverly? Isn't that what he talked
I
about?
can't remember. Oh, over near the acre,
bridge.
right near where the old McDonald's was, right near the
Yeah,
the
that's
Route
gone
1A
now.
bridge. Yeah, well,
So
that's now the Anchor. Yeah.
Restaurant there on the, coming over the bridge. before the
Yeah, I
bridge.
think it's
That
part of
one.
that, but I think he also, if I remember correctly, was talking about kind of that whole life cycle wraparound services that
Yes,
Harbor Light
yes.
has moved to.
Yep.
Harbor Light originally was more focused on homelessness and
Mm-hmm.
keeping folks in their community, but in their home.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't taken a swing at
With that one,
having a
okay.
conversation with them because I think
Sure,
they're,
no problem.
and honestly, this town's current demographics are probably not going to match
Well, it's
what
city-
Harbor Light is doing.
Beverly's
Yeah,
such a
it's
big
a
city.
different town. Yeah.
Big, yeah.
I have a relationship
Some insight.
with Brian from my prior community, so if you need an introduction with the executive director, I worked with him on prior projects, if that's helpful.
In
Andrew
Wenham.
DeFranza,
In Wenham.
yeah.
What were they doing in Wenham?
60 units on Maple Street, all senior 62-plus housing, with extra funding that I coordinated with the Affordable Housing Trust and CPA. So we gave $1 million municipal
Is
dollars.
this the old golf course?
No, it's the old Christmas tree farm
Oh.
behind Burnett's Garage on Maple Street. Like, you think it's probably Danvers, actually.
Okay.
There's 4 corners on 97. You could go back
Yeah.
up Cherry Street towards
Yeah.
1A, or you could go towards Danvers and come out at 35. Burnett's Garage on the right, and then he had the Christmas tree farm next door. Christmas tree farm's gone.
Oh,
Okay.
you're going out that way. That's a good connection.
But if you
Yeah, I'd actually welcome that. I just got the impression from Mr. Hurley that they had moved into a different direction, but.
I think their
maybe
model
I
is
misunderstood.
shifted for sure, but I think at a minimum, he's someone who's an expert in the field and is a good person to have in the conversation. But I can send an email and make the connection.
Yeah, and I think, Carmen, you would just, thank you for that, Jackie, and that first-time homeowners assistance. I think that's, my opinion is that's not something that I think the Affordable Housing Trust
Yeah, no,
should
yeah.
be in the business of.
No.
Now, back to the clearinghouse, there are different things that we can help promote on the Affordable Housing Trust. Many of the banks in the area, including banks right here in town, the Institution for Savings has a first-time home owners program. The Savings Bank, the Cooperative Bank does, and other banks, I believe Salem 5 does, that provide, for first-time home buyers, I think it's a 9 or a 10% down payment requirement that does not require mortgage insurance. Yeah,
Habitat does something similar too. So they have, because they work with a couple of central banks, like kind of more national banks that they have. So they have a whole slew of folks that they're working with. And they also have money that they pull in from like their kind of central Habitat office down in South Carolina, North Carolina, one of those guys. So there's definitely a bunch of these types of programs. I think we just need to get them all in front of us and kind of look through and see what, what we have for options and what we can support and what we could do that's maybe different, right? Because I mean, if all these programs exist, we're not gonna do the same program, I would assume. We're gonna try to find some niches that will help folks.
That we can
differently.
identify and provide as part of
Or
a tool
supplement.
chest of options that an individual can,
Yeah.
and research and access.
Like Herman bringing that up with the COA and the veterans, I think and then us talking with them is a good start, though, to get us,
Yeah,
get our
thank you
feet
for
wet,
that.
as they
That's a good
say.
idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think those are the items that we had talked about last time. I appreciate us diving into the discussion around this home modification program. I've been biased on this in the beginning, but I think that's an actual good early win that we can bring and start promoting in the community. On our town meeting last May, I gave a very short update on what we're doing and letting folks know that we're continuing to move on implementing an action plan. I'd like to be able to, at a minimum, go to the next town meeting and have this board be able to provide some actual concrete things that we've started to move forward on, not just developing an action plan around the 5-year program, but have that.
Okay.
It's not that far away.
No,
It
No.
really isn't.
we gotta come in January with some actual stuff.
We do.
Get working.
We'd have to.
Yeah, we do.
Any other items on the 5-year action plan? I mean, I think we've kept some items kind of at abeyance yet until we get some of these smaller pieces, i.e. get our elevator pitch down, get some of our marketing materials down, develop some opportunities for us to go out into the community and start to communicate. I'm hoping with the businesses, the developers that Mr. Hurley had provided and provided back to me later, that I'll at least be able to have some developers that we can at least gain some insight on. This isn't a case of bringing a developer and say, hey, we'd like to do something, but tell me what it is that you, as a developer that is focusing on affordable housing, what is it you're doing in communities? And are you looking at the Lowells and the Lynns and the Gloucesters, or, if you're looking at a community like Middleton, what is it that would make that attractive to you? At some point, this town may issue an RFI to developers, and this may be, and I think we talked about this at the last meeting I think there may be an opportunity for us as an affordable housing trust to issue an RFI that says, tell me, developers, what it is that you want to see in a community like Middleton that would make you want to come in here and engage on something affordable, that we as an affordable housing trust may be able to either partner with them or provide some oomph to. That's longer term.
Yeah, I was looking at my previous notes, and number 4 talks about ensuring safe and quality homes, and we sort of mentioned hoarding, and we didn't
Yeah.
decide on how we were going to land on that.
So,
which one,
hoarding.
Hoarding.
We talked a little bit about hoarding, and I think some of that goes back to what we just talked about life and safety. And it's, from your time being on the Council on Aging Board, it's an issue. It's an issue here in town, it's an issue in every single town. More often than not, when those cases are identified is when our fire department or our ambulance through the fire department rolls onto the scene. And I believe, to a certain extent now, when that is identified, both our building commissioner, our council on aging, and I believe our, to a lesser extent, the fire department are kind of engaged on identifying. There are programs out there, again, back to the Aging Service Access Points, the AAAs. They have some programs specifically around hoarding, back to the developing that list of services and the menu of potential programs. I don't know if that is something that we would want to see brought into the home update program. I will tell you, that isn't so much about keeping somebody at home. That's more about just keeping somebody safe, but also keeping our first responders safe when they arrive there. I can't answer how big of an issue that is in town. Our fire chief could probably provide some input on that, and our building commissioner.
And there are state programs for that, too. I mean, they have a lot of laws and stuff that.
The
you
Executive
get-
Office of Elder Affairs has some programs on that.
Yeah, and if it gets to a point of safety components, I've been involved in them before, where you have to basically declare the building not, livable and all that stuff. It's unfortunate, but that does happen.
I believe that has occurred in town before.
It happened here, too. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Okay.
So I don't really see us being able to really get involved in that.
No, but I think there's other boards and committees that are, and departments that are more aligned to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Health Department, that's who I also meant to add as well.
Yeah, Health
Yeah.
Department.
Yeah.
Just, can I offer a suggestion that I've been thinking about over here while you've had this conversation? To Beth's earlier point about the toolbox, that's something that a lot of libraries offer, and that's something where I think it would be an interesting conversation. I know, Maria, I don't want to step on your toes as a library trustee, but
Not at all.
we do have a library of things, and
I was gonna
that
say
could
library
be
of things.
a quick use of money that could have a high impact is for the Affordable Housing Trust to donate a toolbox to the library's library of things that folks could use for home installations. That could be a quick.
So the example that you gave, Beth, which town was it?
Medford has
Do you
one
know
of
what
those.
Medford provides in there?
They have a whole big selection. You should go look. It's got, they also have things like birding sets if you want binoculars and
All through their library or
all through
their?
the library.
We have a lot in
I've
ours,
seen
you'd be
some other,
surprised.
yeah, I've seen some.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what are the, when we
What they
talk
have in
about
the box.
tools, what
Right.
makes
It's in the
sense to
box.
have for tools.
Right.
And I don't want to claim to ever be an expert on anything to do with that, but I think it could be something that for not a lot of money could have a really high impact if it's something you wanted to explore and pursue. Maria, I know the
Yeah, I
Library of
can.
Things has been significantly expanded.
Yes, it has.
The
I can
past-
talk to Loretta about that.
I
to
can
see if
also-
she's looked at that.
While a good idea, I'd like to still know what legal stuff we'd have to do to protect ourselves from injuries.
I believe we have waivers for the Library of Things, but I can check that.
I think that might be.
The library has a lot of waivers these days for the insurance
So
company.
give me an example in the library of things.
I know,
What are
that's
some of the
where I'm
things
at. I'm
in
like,
our
what are
library
these
of
things that we're talking about?
Is there, do we have a telescope or is that my prior community?
I think we have a lot of different things, that's an example.
Yeah, telescopes,
And
binoculars.
There's always something being added in. that
There's always
Loretta
like
puts in.
weird things that like you wouldn't necessarily want to buy for yourself or your family, but like to use like for a weekend. Like games are a part of it now, and puzzles, and like just like imagine checking out.
Hotspot thing. like
mobile
that
hotspots.
Mobile hotspot thing isn't one
Those
I
are the
just
big
thought of.
ticket items, are the mobile hotspots.
Yeah, that's
but like
one.
certain lawn games, like things that like.
Yeah, we're
I
not
think
gonna
it-
have jarts.
What?
You
like, but,
don't
like,
think that that'll work with the
so
insurance
what is
company?
it?
You don't have a problem with that, would they?
And Berkeley, California was one of the first ones of these, and they try to have everything you need to do, like, take a house that is not habitable and turn it into a house that's habitable, so it's a much bigger, like, space devoted to it. But it's things like pruning shears and levels,
Hammer.
drill.
hammer, drill.
Oh, so it's really just like a tool shed,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, a tool shed that like, you don't have the thing in your garage, but,
Or I did, and I loaned it out to somebody, and I can't remember who I loaned it out
yeah,
to.
exactly.
Never returned it.
exactly.
It might be me.
But it's the sort of thing where, if
wipe the blood off of
if you're going over to a friend's house and you're like, oh, you need a grab bar, I can put that up for
The
you.
shovel.
Here.
Oh, wait, here we go. Library of Things. So I'm just checking, I'm on the card catalog.
I watched too many murder mysteries.
Okay. So they have like a mahjong set, magnifying glasses, a visual timer, kids noise canceling earmuffs, a book stand, certain school communication books, different kinds of power adapters for when you travel, certain HDMI and technology accessories, an adaptive art kit. It's the wireless laser presenter and just it's
No
a
telescope?
globe.
No
I
telescope?
swear there's a telescope, but there's a lot of pages. Everyone should check out Flint Public Library. There's so many things on
Well,
here.
I think to this point,
I'll
though,
ask Loretta
is,
about that.
thank you, Beth, for bringing this up. If we were going to fund a small investment in putting together a toolkit that would be available to residents that are looking to do some of these efforts, I mean, the library is the logical place for it to be. It's, I don't want somebody going to town hall and asking for somebody in the Affordable Housing Trust Committee to come out and, find this in the basement of town hall. The library's already built for loaning out things
Yeah.
that they're pretty good at making sure they get back.
There's an
What is she-
R2D2 cardboard cutout.
Are you going to go borrow that, Jack? Jackie's gonna borrow that.
There's a wait list for that.
Bill took it out last year. He hasn't- He hasn't
For
returned it.
anyone watching at home, it is available right now.
I'm thinking somebody
Contain
found that at the
yourself,
swap
Jackie.
shop.
Jackie,
That's what
contain
happened.
yourself over there.
I just thought it was so funny. I'm so sorry.
That sounds interesting, though. The
love
library
it.
things, it seems like a cool idea.
We could ask the library, like, what space they have, what
Yeah.
bandwidth they have,
I'll
and
ask
how
Jack- I mean,
much, what
Jackie.
resources could help them
Yeah.
do more.
I'll ask Loretta. I will.
Fantastic.
I will.
Town hall definitely won't have a library of things.
No, they
Even-
shouldn't
even the
be.
new- Even the new one.
No.
The new one in the room.
Well, it's not meant for that. I mean, it is at the
Libraries are
Library of
built to
Things.
loan and make sure that it comes back.
Right.
The idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask her, yeah.
Thanks, Miranda.
Yeah, no, thank
So-
you. Thank you for the suggestion.
Any other items on our five-year plan that we have missed or that we had discussed at our last meeting that folks want to provide an update
It
on?
was,
Did everyone see our column in the November COA newsletter?
I don't get the newsletter, so I didn't actually see it.
It's online too, if you go to our COA webpage at middletonma.gov. But I'm also, if Herman's all right with it, I was gonna add it to the website for the trust.
Okay, sure.
We'll like catalog all the columns there, if that is all right.
Yeah, actually, thank you for this,
I was wondering that. Maria.
Maria, thank you.
It's okay. Maybe you do belong
Yeah,
at the COA.
I may be at the COA sooner than later.
Herman, book 'em all.
There was some discussion at the last meeting on the inventory of affordable units that is being done by our new planner. So our new planner is now up to date, up on board and fully operational and chugging along. Do we know, Jackie, where that inventory is, if she's
That's
still in
not-
process?
Not the first priority for this first month. I'm hoping to see it in the spring, that we'll dig into it. I will say, please do expect an invitation for some point in January, I'm not sure the date from her, for a joint meeting with this body, the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board, for a follow-up conversation from last January on zoning and inclusion and all of that wonderful work.
Yeah, and to figure out a rule of the road, so to speak, of how this committee can weigh in on that process, but be able to do it in a timely manner, understanding that we are an advisory board, we are not part of the actual zoning, ZBA, process.
And I think we're
Speak for yourself.
hoping to also have some trainings available. I know that Anna looked into some trainings on affordability and zoning and affordable housing work in general. with the CPTC. So one of your goals on the 5-year action plan was providing any education on affordable housing and how it works and what we can do in Middleton. So I know she's coordinating with one of the training organizations that works with land use boards to offer a training to Middleton, our Affordable Housing Trust, our ZBA, our planning board, and other area town land use boards on inclusionary zoning and other kind of concepts within that realm. It's kind of like a primer 101 course for people who want to like better understand the mechanics of how it all works and how it interplays with your current zoning. So I think that's something that's going to be in February or March, and we'll do it at the Flint Public Library, and it'll be a multi-town opportunity.
Cool.
So she was
Nice.
working on that already, which was
Sounds
great.
great.
Nice.
I dig it.
Oh.
The kids.
Quick question,
Yeah.
in terms of sharing communications with the town, do we feel that the Council on Aging newsletter should be our official way of getting information out to as many people as possible?
I think it's a source of distribution of our message now. I don't think it should be the primary source, because at some point, Jillian's going to want to have some of this space given to other groups and organizations. I'm hoping at some point, we're going to be able to build up a little bit of a knowledge base that people will be regularly visiting our website or engaging with us in some of the community meetings that we hope to hold in 2025. And there may be an opportunity for us to find ways that we can communicate on our own. I don't know what those would be yet. I think we should think about in a communication and marketing strategy, do we as an Affordable Housing Trust want to have a, can't believe I'm going to say this, social media page?
No.
I would vote no on that, or at least
where I'm at.
for now, but the reality is it's a way to distribute message, but I don't want it to become a forum for,
Fodder.
yeah, or tit for tat communication, but I think.
Don't have to have it open that way, but it's.
No, but I think, I mean, what I do like about the town's Facebook page in terms of at least the posting that happens, and maybe it's not Facebook, maybe it's Twitter or X, whatever it's called now.
Blue sky.
Or it's going to sound like Bill Belichick with
X.
that
Called
face
X.
plant or whatever he was calling it.
It's not blue sky.
No, blue sky's another, it's the
Another.
other, it's the number 2 or 3 social media network now.
X is probably number
Is
one.
it really? I've never heard of it, so I've clearly old.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. All right.
Well, as of like a week ago, so
Yeah, so I
it-
don't think it's.
But I think on the whole communication and marketing, but more so in communication, is finding ways. I mean, here's the deal. We don't have a newspaper any longer. And, you know, there's the Salem News, but Salem News's coverage of Middleton is when we have to print a required legal notice, and that's it.
Do miss that tri-town.
I mean, at one
I
point, there
really
were 3
think-
papers in this town.
Yeah,
So,
the Tri-Town was great.
so there's not a logical tool for us to communicate through.
I will say that during this drought season that we had, the fire department's Facebook page was a tremendous resource of information.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely for the fire, for
Absolutely,
sure.
for the fire department, yeah.
And,
I don't think we have
and I would say,
anything
but
that- not pressing items though necessarily.
well, I mean,
right?
but the
We do?
towns, is it the Facebook page or is it a
It's
Twitter page
Facebook.
that Justin does some?
Facebook.
Facebook.
And you have a news and notice, right? So we have news and notices that
But it
come
may
out.
be
We
an
can always add to
opportunity
that.
for us to see ways that we can leverage
Why couldn't we
that page
add-
to
yeah.
actually, if we develop this program for home modifications and we decide we want to roll it out, I would highly recommend we're going to roll it out in multiple different strategies and opportunities, and one of them would be through the town's Facebook page itself. And I will tell you, it continues to get a lot of viewing. Nothing's getting the viewing like your project's page is getting right now.
We get a couple, yeah,
Yeah.
a couple folks.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think would be interesting is one of the things that happened recently is the select board approved the fiscal 25 to 27 goals. And one of the items that our office administration committed to is developing and releasing a town newsletter monthly. I'm not making any promises on exactly when that's getting started, but the opportunity to put columns in there is also something we're hoping to do, and it will not be a physical print distribution, the way that COA newsletter is both an electronic and a print distribution, but the goal is it would at least have electronic distribution.
We are on Facebook or on the
On
town
the
website?
website, on Facebook, we'd like push it through all channels, but it would be basically like an online bulletin that you could like click to from social media.
Nice.
Like,
And then we can just grab like a bullet, like a little section or something, so that we're
Yeah, I
just
think
providing updates on what we're working on.
probably open,
don't need
like,
to create a
we
new
have
page.
not had more than the concept of this is something we want to do conversations in our office, but my imagination is telling me that I don't think the town administrator and I have the capacity to fill the whole thing, just two of us and our admin, so that's
Yeah,
another.
we do one. I mean, each department kind of throws things together and it all goes in. And our communication manager kind of puts it together as like a 3-pager that's, Concord
we're
kind of did the same thing, so
Planning to
it's,
pull, like,
What
you
about
know,
our communication manager?
you're looking at her.
Did you see that
Actually,
face? That
one
face
thing
was-
to mention is that Blue Sky one, the
see
way
the face?
that the handles
Doing
work
my
on that
best
is
to
it can
hear.
be your domain name.
Yeah.
So we could have affordablehousing.middleton.gov as
That's
the
not
name.
even, I think it's too fresh and new. I mean,
Okay.
X is the real.
I
No,
know
I-
a bunch of people are moving, yeah.
But what I will say
it's
is,
too
I think,
political in a
I
lot of
think when,
ways.
well, everything has become
Yeah,
political,
everything
unfortunately,
Blue
but
Sky is really
but I
not-
think when the
there's
point comes that
problems.
we're going to be rolling out, we need to find the vehicles
Middleton.
now that are being utilized. We need to find the, to your point, Jackie, what is part of the 25 to 27 goals. If this is part of it, I'm not saying it'll be every single month a part of the newsletter, but we might have things to say more than a couple of times a year.
Right, just have a little space to.
Every household in Middleton,
Put it in the warrant.
talk to Meld about doing an insert in the electric bill.
Or the water bill.
Oh,
We do
yeah.
a lot of that. I do a lot of that.
But do electric
do you
bills
get
still
yours?
go out? Like, I don't get mine.
I don't get mine.
Mine's electronic.
Yeah.
I get mine.
I
They still
I
have-
get
they
a
can still have
physical bill.
Is your electric bill, when you scroll all the way to the, do you scroll all the way to the bottom of your
But there's
electric bill?
inserts,
'Cause
sometimes there's
Yeah, there's
stuff.
inserts.
I
there's
get mine
inserts.
online,
Let's stick an
and
insert.
I scroll all the way to the bottom, I can still see
Mine
the
just gets auto
inserts.
paid. If not, my wife pays it, and I count that as auto pay. I don't know.
Maybe it's the way to inform your wife.
That's
Bill
a,
was 500
Also-
last month.
I mean, tax bills too are another way we can arrange an insert in a tax bill. You
But a
know,
lot of tax bills
go to
tax
mortgage
service,
companies
yeah,
and, you know,
people don't see them.
The
And
same
if you
way-
don't have them, so
Yeah.
that's why, you know,
Electric companies
everybody who lives in town has electricity.
And water.
Does
Not
Danvers
in-
Water
not in
allow
water.
an insert?
not in water. I would strongly advise doing meld. And
Yeah,
as
that
a-
doesn't make sense too, because you, actually, no, you don't want to do that.
there's a lot of wells and,
I was just gonna
and
say that's where I was
it's
at.
complicated with Danvers because they have so many
Electric is
Danvers
the
customers.
perfect idea.
Yep.
So for your
Or
growing
post it
list
on the
of your
website.
department head meeting tomorrow, could you,
We have a half hour for all 15 departments.
okay, can you not let them out of the room until you ask them questions? Could you also ask Meld, you know,
Oh yeah, I'll just send them an email.
and
It's-
just ask, you know, what is the, because I don't know how often that's being done. I think in the past, there's been efforts that have done it, but are there ways that we could, you know,
ask-
what do we have to do to be able to make
What
that
is
work?
it and if there's room on their roster?
What was the last one? I remember what was the last one we got in the electric? I'm trying to remember, there was a pink one, I remember getting a pink one.
I
I'm trying to
don't,
think what it was.
you know, remember, but, you know.
There
I-
was one.
Yeah, there's, you know, insert, you know, in the, in tax bills occasionally, you know. Like, you know, Wilmington sends out with their tax bills, you know, every quarter, a 4-page, newsletter, you know, it's one sheet, you know, open it like this, so it's 4 pages, that
There's all the, yep.
it has a lot of news about what's happening, you know, in town.
What about
But
the-
again, that goes to people that actually receive a tax bill.
What about the excise tax?
The excise taxes are harder because there's so many people that lease.
Leases?
Yeah, we get like the batches from each of the auto dealerships, things like that. And then there's the commercial excise and excise a little, and it's only, there's one big excise send out, and then there's like the.
No, I was thinking the
couple
big
of
one.
Yeah, I think we're probably on the cusp of being too late for this
Yeah.
year's, because it's,
At
Now.
the same time, we're not kind of really sure of what we're doing, so,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you might be missing that window anyway, I mean.
but for next year.
For sure. I
So
think that's a
Her-
next year
Herman,
thing.
here's what I'd ask you as you are thinking about our website and how we're going to be, I mean, that's going to be our clearinghouse where we're, in all of the messaging that we're doing out there, whether it's in the COA newsletter, whether it's through a monthly newsletter from the town administrator's office, whether it's an insert in the water bill, whether it's, we asked the Friends of the Flint to include us in one of their mailings, whatever the case is. Give some thought of other communication channels that we can drive the messages out to. I think we are finding new and better ways all the time to communicate with the folks in town, but there are some tried and true. But to your point, Beth, we also have to stay ahead of the curve of, I feel like Facebook is really only a certain age group now.
I mean, every time I go there, all I see are the auto-generated AI posts from people I've never heard of, so I don't spend much time there anymore.
I did
I mean-
notice that when you're saying about the bills, it just reminded me of Danvers. Because I have property in Danvers, in their water bill, in their electric bill, they always put flyers, especially for like the recycling and the calendars. So it's not an odd thing to put it in the electric bill or something. And
Or, there's at least once a year that I know a lot of mail comes out of town hall, and that's when folks are getting their
Warrant.
transfer station
Oh, the sticker.
stickers that are
Yeah,
provided to them.
strongly, respectfully, please, no.
Yeah. That's good.
I'll bring it up, but that's a nasty time of year to add more paperwork. to
Tell them
the
that was
file.
Rich's idea.
Rich's idea.
Rich, we'll have to hear about it at the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting in January with me. We get to talk trash in January, and aren't we excited?
Talk trash.
I know that's a 1 month. Massive sprint.
Operationally, it
I see what
is
you did.
like a really dynamic process.
She slid that in.
I was thinking you were gonna ask to put something in the town meeting warrant, and
The
that's where I
warrant?
thought where that was going.
No, I don't think that, you can't really
And,
do that, though.
because it's even less infrequent, but I would respectfully avoid the transfer station sticker.
I mean, I think folks are just, I mean, honestly, most folks sign up for news and notices. I mean, that's got it. I mean, what's your,
My
I
subscriber count?
My email is pretty loaded. I know every board's meeting, their agenda, their.
Yeah, comes through.
I'm not saying
But
even
you
just
pick
that,
what
but
you
I'm saying
want,
like the
too.
news and
Yeah, I saw it for
notices
some reason.
piece, right? Because you put that on the
pick
side of the
what-
website and then you zing it
pick
out,
what
right?
you
So that
want.
goes to everybody, letting people know that that happened. So, people are signed up for that, they should be able to get it. There's definitely ways to get it out, but I think probably the more important piece would be to kind of understand what we're trying to get out, so. let's
Yeah,
focus-
I mean,
this is,
I
my
don't
this is
wanna-
cart before the horse, let's get the.
Well, yeah, but I think
For
it's
the
important to say,
mechanism.
we're going to get some messages, we're going to start putting out, but we have to figure out how to get it out as well.
Yeah.
And
But what we're gonna put out is what Bill's saying, is we don't
That's probably the
know.
more
I have
important piece.
410 subscribers to news and notices.
How many?
410.
You know?
But that's
That's
people that
it?
actively went and clicked and signed up. And if you haven't signed up on our new website, middletonma.gov, we did a full refresh this summer. I encourage everyone to check it out.
Fully engaged on, they get emails all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Every new agenda. every
Know that
new
I
agenda.
think about how often they're coming to you, and I feel bad about it.
It's not a big deal. It's a 2-second thing like ads, like a sale. It's like click, no thanks, click, delete.
So I think putting the cart before the horse, while it's a good point, if we suddenly have a lot of stuff to push out, but we don't have those channels built, that information is going to sit and wait until we actually have something. So I think one of the things we could do is get a QR code for our public site,
site.
put it in the COA newsletter, and then any other channel of communication that we have, we just put that QR code out, and then people can get to our site like that. So setting up a QR code is less than 5 minutes.
We have a paid town account too, so that, because if you get too many people clicking your code, they turn it off. So we do have a paid QR code program, because we use that actually for the transfer station stickers. You might have noticed the last couple of years. If you go and you don't have your sticker, you can scan it and pay online and get in the first opening weekend.
Yep.
So.
I may or may not have had to use that.
And we could put them on
We
business
snuck in.
cards as well, if that's something you're
Yes,
interested
I
in.
think that's a good idea too.
Yeah.
Should I do the QR code and,
I mean, do we have stuff on there that's worthwhile?
That's a
Because
great-
if we start
the
branching,
QR
like,
code
keep
will
in mind,
just
if we start
drive folks
branching
to
things
our
out with no
webpage,
information
correct.
on it, then it's just white noise and nobody goes to it again.
you have the strategic plan, you have your COA newsletter column from November.
We have our agendas, we have our minutes, we have.
I guess there's stuff on there.
Some of the data that Herman's going to be working on, that we can be able to at least represent some of the snapshot. What we talked about is, do you know what the
Do you know we have
cost of
this?
an average home is in Middleton? Do you know, what is considered affordable? What is,
Yeah.
other items to
Yep.
highlight?
Like any other board.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that something to proceed with over the next month, is getting that QR code and,
Yeah, I
If
think
we
we should
can.
just embed that in all of
Yes.
our future communication. It's, if we want our website to be, at least for the time being, our clearinghouse,
Yes.
Yeah.
the more we drive there, the better.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, I want to talk about next meetings. I assume folks don't want to meet on Wednesday, January 1st?
No.
Because that's the first Wednesday of the month.
Wow, is it?
Wednesday, the 8th, I have building committee conflict. Oh, Wednesday, I'm sorry, Wednesday, the 11th.
no, Wednesday the
Wednesday,
8th.
the 8th, sorry, I'm in the wrong month.
That would be February 11th.
Are you in December?
So I don't want to lose the January meeting, but can we talk about what would be a date that would work for this board? Now, we're going to have to make some assumptions of where we can meet.
Thursday, the 9th would work for me.
Herman?
I clear my calendar, Thursday 9th.
I can do Thursday.
Good to folks?
Yeah. And what do you mean, where? We know where it
So
I don't know if I
I
can.
think right now we may have to say to be determined.
Yep.
Location to be
is. Why,
TBD.
how come that?
Can I have a backup option, because I'm worried about that evening on this calendar for this space.
For this, what's
Tuesday
going on?
does- The Tuesday
No,
doesn't work.
because we're moving off our, because we have the first Wednesday of every month scheduled for this board
Oh, you
at this
think there's some-
location.
oh,
So if we
oh.
move to the following Thursday,
Oh, we
which
mess
would be
up.
the 9th,
We might mess things up.
we may be saying, hey, we're just going to have it here, but the, I don't know, planning board may be meeting here.
Yeah. Maybe Jack, you can find out.
Well, the 15th, maybe the 15th isn't an alternative?
I can make,
That's that's
That's the
not,
following
I
Wednesday.
should actually get into January before I said I can make it. So I can make Thursday, the 9th, and what was the other date you mentioned?
15th.
The
he said.
15th?
Wednesday, the 15th.
I can also make the 15th.
I can make either of those.
sure.
Do you still want to have a straight Affordable Housing Trust meeting alone, a standalone, when you also might have a joint meeting in January with planning and zoning? Do you want to double up, or do you want to have the joint meeting only, just so that I can work with Anna tomorrow on
I
that?
think we're trying to work on stuff, so I'd say we want to double it up, right?
Yeah, so do we want to, if we had a joint meeting, what time would we hold the joint meeting? Would we want to spend an hour max
Well, if we
on
started-
our agenda and then open it up to the joint meeting?
Joint meeting,
6 and 7, right?
a joint meeting wouldn't, I don't think, start till 7. I think the planning board doesn't start until 7, nor does the zoning board because of conflicts.
Yep.
So what I could do is find out the date of
Do you know yours?
the joint meeting, and you could do
You're
your
on
meeting
zoning
at
board.
6, and then
No,
join
no,
the joint meeting at 7.
6 to 7,
You haven't done
report out on
January.
these items that we are all working on, and then on the 7th, start the joint meeting.
Yep.
I think that's a great
What was it
wrench.
again you said? I'm sorry. January 9th, what? The joint meeting?
So we don't have a date yet in January for the
No, I'm
joint meeting.
hoping that she has, Bill, have you gotten an email to the zoning board yet about availability?
Nope,
I will,
I have not, but I mean, typically we would be the last Thursday, right? So we'd be the 30th for January.
and I think we were gonna try to shoehorn whenever the planning board will be funny because of Wednesday holiday. And ZBA, I think, has at least 2 cases open for December. So I think she was trying to work off of the planning board because they had more openings, they had less cases in front of them. Let me reach out. It sounds like January 9th and January 15th are good for you all 6.
Yeah, I'm not even.
Depending what you do with
sure.
SWAC.
I'm assuming we're
What?
not meeting.
Depending what you do with
26th
SWAC.
As the ZBA.
I just got your email on SWAC, and that was one of the dates I think you had.
The 15th was the one I was skipping.
Oh, okay, good.
So let me touch base with our planner tomorrow and try to get you something sooner rather than later, if that's okay.
That's fine, fine.
So we would look at 6 to 7 Affordable Housing Trust, 7 o'clock would be joint meeting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
On the 9th or the 15th.
And if not, it may be
a different date that may align more with the planning and/or
Yeah.
based on their agendas that they have.
Yeah, I think ZBA had cases in front of them, planning maybe didn't, so, but I'll circle up with her tomorrow and let everybody know.
A short one, I think, right? We have some continuances, I think, that's all we've had. Because I'm
That's
assuming
more
we're
than
not
the
meeting
planning.
on the 26th. I mean,
I doubt it.
I'm gonna be on
December?
vacation.
I believe that you have 2 cases and the planning board has none, so I think you have more cases right now,
Okay,
from my recollection.
sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so watch your inbox, some communication of the date that's been locked down. If it ends up not being the 9th and the 15th, we'll send out some communication so folks can, A, lock their calendars or let us know if that would be a conflict for you. Okay, and then we should be able to get back on a regular first Wednesday of the month schedule.
You want the rest of the first Wednesdays booked through June for this room?
Why don't we grab them from now through June, and then we can reassess probably in the February timeframe of which of those meetings definitely need to be locked down. I don't want to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting if we don't have anything worthwhile to work or communicate around.
Sure.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
And again, just a reminder, if folks want something on an agenda for a future meeting, let me know the Wednesday prior to that Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
If not, a week prior to the meeting. So if we go the 9th, I mean, I think we've got a pretty packed agenda for that 1 hour, but if there's something that you feel that you want to have on the agenda, just let me know. We'll get it on that meeting. If not, I promise you at the minimum, the next meeting.
Because Jackie may come back with some stuff.
Yeah.
Or Herman might
Yeah,
with
yeah, exactly.
COA.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. And we are adjourned. Thank you.